Today we're meeting with Dan from Grunt Style. They make patriotic t-shirts and clothing, and today we're going to talk about doing a bike.
So we've actually looked at your product, and it's really incredible.
Whether you love it or hate it, it's undeniable that American Chopper is one of the most iconic and controversial reality series of the last 2 decades. If you have ever wondered why the show continues to be so relevant so many years after its debut in 2003, the answer is quite simple. While the business whatnots and the genius motorbike customizations showcased in it are what attracted people to watch the show, the many family dramas are definitely what made them stay for the duration. However, despite its success, in 2010, American Chopper was suddenly cancelled, and regardless of the fact several spin-offs have been released since then, people still wonder why the show came to an end in the first place, and the reason why its following airings were so short-lived. Take a seat and pay attention, because fortunately, we will give you the answer to those questions, in addition to updating you on the whereabouts of the show's cast. Do you want to win any of these items on your screen? If so, make sure to watch the whole video, leave a like, and comment a hidden message. And without being said, let's get ready to the video. At the time of its end in 2010, American Chopper had 7.2 audience points on average, which means several million people watched the show per episode. That's really impressive, and apparently a good reason for TLC to want to keep airing the show. So that makes it clear that low ratings were not a logical reason for the cancellation. So what was it? To know that, we need to go back to 2008, when Paul Tuttle Sr. confronted his son Paul Jr. over the young man's habit of being late to work, something which Paul Jr. didn't like, and a father-son loud verbal fight quickly ensued. As if that wasn't enough drama, Paul Sr. fired him right there in front of all their employees and for the world to see through the show. Despite how big of a fight happened between father and son, Paul Jr. came back to the show months later to take the place of a contractor, though that agreement didn't last for long, as he left again to open his own camp stove business in mid-2009. That's when Paul Sr. tried to buy his son's share in Orange County Choppers through force, ensuing a legal battle that lasted until late 2010. Besides that, the former staff member Cody Connolly and the artist Justin Barnes were respectively suing the business for fraud and design copying. However, TLC wasn't going to wait until those court cases were sorted out, and in February 2010, they had already announced the end of American Chopper. Although the network didn't admit the real reason for the cancellation, it was obvious the legal problems its stars were going through and the drama it would surely entail was the cause. Paul Jr.'s plans of having a business dedicated to design stoves were short-lived, leading him to take back his profession of chopper builder. However, this time he wasn't going to repeat his past mistakes, and instead of returning to his father's garage, he founded his own shop, Paul Jr. Designs. Becoming independent also brought new things for him, as TLC included him and his business in the new show American Chopper Senior vs. Junior, which premiered in August 2010 and was counted as the original series' first spin-off. Senior vs. Junior also included Paul Sr. Tuttle and Orange County Choppers, creating some kind of competition between both shops, but always with one condition: father and son would rarely interact with each other in the show. That was a smart move, considering the financial legal battle that was occurring off cameras between them. Although Paul Sr. and Jr. teamed up to work on a bike during the show's 4th season, their relationship was far from being fixed. Ultimately, the series was cancelled in 2012 by TLC without giving much of an explanation. However, the show's producer, Craig Peligian, was sincere about it during an interview with Entertainment Weekly, admitting that filming the show was difficult for him as well. Also, that his relationship with Paul Jr. hadn't been the easiest, and at some point even led to Tuttle's firing. Regardless of that, Peligian considered that the show still had more potential. It's been a resilient, powerful show. Right now, they're telling me it's cancelled, he said, after admitting he had mixed feelings regarding the network's decision. Craig Peligian wasn't wrong. American Chopper still had a lot of potential, and that's the reason why in early 2013, its second spin-off, Orange County Choppers, debuted, though this time on the network CMT. Left behind was also the whole concept of the rivalry between father and son, as the series centered more on Paul Sr. and his business. Unfortunately, this new show was short-lived too, and aired its last episode in early 2014. Later that year, the special episode Shack Bike aired, featuring the building of a chopper for the basketball legend Shaquille O'Neal. This single revival of the series made fans happy, but also made the still not fixed relationship between Paul Sr. and Jr. more evident, as there was no trace of the oldest Tuttle son in it. The year 2018 took everyone by surprise with the revival of the original series American Chopper on the Discovery Channel. What was even more shocking was not only the fact that the show was returning to the TV after 4 years, but many were ecstatic to find out that Paul Sr. and Jr. had finally reconciled after 10 years of being on not too good terms with each other. Fixing the relationship was not an easy task, Paul Jr. even published a book entitled The Build, in which he talked about the long path he had to walk to build his own business after he was fired from Orange County Choppers by his father, whom he not so kindly described as a monster. That's something which Paul Sr. admitted had hurt him, but also was the starting point to leave behind such a negative and damaging episode of their lives. We sat down and talked about it. Listen, stuff happens. People have their own way, he told the New York Post in 2018. While they were slowly building their relationship again, father and son weren't going to work together again at the same shop in the new show. That's something both of them made very clear, though fans still got to see them teaming up for a few projects. However, the revival of American Choppers only lasted 2 seasons until it was once again cancelled in March 2019. Though Discovery again didn't give a reason for it, some fans alleged that the show ended because Tuttle was moving to Florida, wanting to become a YouTube sensation. Although these rumors were later denied by Senior's manager, people eventually attributed the cancellation to his off-camera legal problems, though this time it had nothing to do with Paul Jr. and was instead related to his bankruptcy and other financial issues. In early 2020, Discovery announced that American Chopper was returning to the network in a 2-hour-long special episode entitled The Last Ride. The news wasn't surprising enough though, as prior to it were already rumors that the cast was back filming the show. Nonetheless, the most exciting thing wasn't the short return of the series per se, but the fact that Paul Sr. and Paul Jr. would be working together on a project, something which hadn't really happened for years. Granted, all that was good news, but the premise of The Last Ride really gave fans a grim vibe, leading them to think that Paul Sr. and co. were saying goodbye for good to the series. However, as American Chopper has been off and on the air for over a decade, it's still possible the show will return to TV once again in the near future. American Chopper might have ended, but if there's something its crew will always be remembered for, besides the drama, it would be for their talent in building the most creative bikes. Although the show debuted in 2003, Orange County Choppers have been making the name for itself since the 1990s when they started building choppers for local customers who had a preference for old-looking classic bikes. The business grew so quickly that soon enough, a variety of celebrities and companies started commissioning highly expensive classic motorbikes for themselves. The first project to ever be shown in American Chopper was the well-known Black Widow, which also inspired the shop's original and less expensive bike series, the Web. However, when it comes to the best and most iconic bikes, it's necessary to name the movie-inspired chopper iRobot. In addition to it, the football bike, commissioned by the New York Mets, is also one of their best and more well-known bikes. Other projects worth mentioning are the ones made for companies such as GoDaddy, Hewlett-Packard, Wendy's, and a variety of sports teams. Granted, some of these businesses appeared in the show to promote themselves, but the final results were always astounding, despite the many difficulties the crew faced, such as short deadlines, budgets, and personal problems. He's a man who doesn't need to be introduced. Starting with his talent at building choppers, his business skills, and lifestyle, there's no way Paul Tuttle Sr. can be mistaken by anyone else. However, while Tuttle was always recognized for his successful business, in recent times he has had many financial problems that unfortunately even led him to file for Chapter 13 bankruptcy in 2018. It became so difficult for him to pay his debts that he had to sell his home in New York, some of his cars, boats, and even one of his dogs, although that was a difficult episode of his life. Nowadays, it seems to be going better for Tuttle with the premiere of the American Choppers 2020 special, which hopefully helped him to solve some of his financial problems. Regarding his personal life, Tuttle's relationship with his sons Paulie and Mike has improved for the best, and he also maintains a stable romantic relationship with a woman named Joni King. As is well known, Paul Jr.'s very commented upon argument with his father led to his firing back in 2008. He eventually resolved to become an entrepreneur and founded his shop, Paul Jr. Designs. While the business primarily competed with his father's shop, it always followed its own creative line. That resulted in gaining the approval of several top customers and companies through the years. Nowadays, the shop is still active and is apparently solely managed by Paul Jr. himself. Family life is also good for Paulie in recent years. In 2010, he married Rachel Beister, with whom he welcomed their first son Hudson Stephen in 2015. In addition, Paul Jr.'s relationship with his father is better than ever after they fixed their broken bond in 2018. Although he's the youngest son of Paul Sr. Tuttle, Mike didn't take a big part in the bike building business from the start. He is mostly remembered for being the funny part of the show, even if in real life, Mike is not as eccentric as depicted on screen. However, the family situation between his father and older brother took a toll on him. In addition to that, the fact Paul Sr. cut him out of the business pushed Mike to leave Orange County Choppers to join his brother's business, Paul Jr. Designs. Nowadays, Mike's relationship with his father has improved a lot, but it's hard to know what's up with his personal life. On his Instagram account, he's affirmed that he's single, but has also posted several pics of a young baby whom people suspect is his child, though he hasn't confirmed or denied those suspicions. If there's something that American Chopper will always be remembered for, it is for the fact that the show transcended TV and reached other types of mainstream media. The most popular of these might be the meme known as the American Chopper argument, which is a picture sequence originating from the verbal fight between Paul Sr. and Jr. back in 2008. It went viral when internet users started posting the pictures by changing the original words to fit other situations. However, less well known is the fact that the show also inspired 2 video games developed by Activision Values and Create Studios. Besides that, American Chopper also inspired a Comedy Central parody show entitled American Body Shop that ran for 1 season. Considering all of these things, it's hard to deny how much of an impact the American Chopper franchise had on people and on the reality series genre. Its legacy most likely will continue, whether or not the show returns to TV in the near future. Thank you for spending some time with us. Make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss another video. We also handpick these videos which we recommend you watch next. You can talk to us on all social medias or ask a question in the comments below. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you back tomorrow.